Hospitals, schools, prisons, housing, courts, high streets, public transport, immigration, policing, all key areas. In the UK, they're all broken. Satisfaction in public services has dramatically declined in recent years. The public knows just how downhill the country's gone. This poll reported by the Financial Times shows the destruction of almost every service over the last 2 decades. The NHS, education, and the justice system show the worst declines. What exactly has caused this? As a country, we've endured 14 catastrophic years of Conservative rule, characterised by austerity, scandal, and neglect. Labour now has one of the worst economic inheritances in the country's history. While services crumble, national debt sits at its highest level since the post-war era. In addition, the IMF predicts that the economy will only grow by 0.9% this year. Without the benefit of growth, the ability to borrow, and the entire public service landscape in disarray, the government has an incredibly challenging job on its hands. So, is it actually possible for Labour to turn the UK around? People are sceptical. Most of the UK voted for Labour only out of hatred for the Tories, not out of confidence in Labour's ability to fix the country. So, what indications, if any, have they made to instill hope for the future? Let's start with the NHS. Post-2010 austerity hit UK healthcare hard. The amount spent on the NHS by the government was slashed during David Cameron's coalition, far below the levels of the 2000s. As a result, hospitals are failing all around the country. Many are left with leaking, collapsing roofs. Labour have declared the NHS as broken, plagued by huge waiting lists and overworked staff. The number of long waits lasting up to and over a year have increased by the millions under Conservative leadership. Backlogs and delays cause hundreds of excess deaths every week. The justice sector is no better. Prisons are overcrowded. Many are now leaving prison before fully serving their sentence just to free up space. Policing has declined, with thousands less officers serving than a decade ago. As a result, crime has skyrocketed in the UK. Street theft and phone snatching, in particular, has risen, with shoplifting climbing to 20-year highs. All of this is a result of the continuous decline in the justice and policing system. So how can the new government turn this hot mess around? They promised to create an extra 40,000 hospital appointments every week. They also promised to deliver 20,000 prison spaces so that capacity is not exceeded. But this does not mean much to the average person. Without proof that Labour can actually accomplish these targets, they're just empty promises. Unfortunately, funding is the crux behind these fixes, and the overriding problem is the government's finances are a mess. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has warned that there is no money to spend. Growth is non-existent, so they can't just create funds from thin air. The government is currently running a huge spending deficit, meaning revenues from taxes are far below what is currently spent publicly. Labour has accused the Tories of creating a £20 billion black hole of funding, overspending, knowing that Labour would have to pick up the mess. A solution would usually be borrowing, but as previously stated, the national debt is at dangerous levels, and the interest rates are much higher now than they were during the austerity era, meaning it would have been much cheaper to borrow 10 years ago. Austerity is also not a good idea. Hugely cutting government spending into key services is a huge reason why the UK is in this mess. The only option left to Reeves is to increase taxes. Labour promised during their election campaign not to increase the 4 main taxes: income, national insurance, VAT, and corporation. These taxes make up the vast majority of total government revenue. Instead, they will likely find new ways to tax the rich. Capital gains and inheritance tax will target wealth instead of income. While some praise this idea of redistribution, many argue that these policies will disincentivise investment and stop entrepreneurs from operating inside the UK. They will simply leave to a country that has lower taxes. However, it looks as though this is a trade-off Rachel Reeves can live with. It remains to be seen whether she opts for these niche tax changes or goes back on her promise not to increase taxes for working people, or whether these taxes will even provide enough funds needed to fix public services. Let's go into housing. Why is it so important? Because the system is rigged against first-time buyers. It perpetually widens the gap between those who own houses and those finding it too difficult to get onto the ladder in the first place. This inequality seems to be a runaway issue, so Labour must find a way to turn the trends around. A start can be, and has been, made in this sector specifically. The single issue causing this problem is a lack of house building. Since Thatcher ended the construction of council houses in the 1980s, the private sector has been expected to keep up with the demands of the entire population. They have not been able to. Demand has far outstripped supply for decades, leading to a constant rise in house prices. Since 2009, the average UK house price has nearly doubled, so those owning houses have seen incredible returns on their investments. Young people looking to buy their first house, on the other hand, have been priced out, as wages have severely lagged behind this trend. This graph is the best way to show how wealth growth through asset ownership has far outpaced income growth over the past few decades. As a result, more and more young people are living at home with their parents. More worrying, though, is the rise in homelessness. It is currently at its highest level on record. As of last year, there were 309,000 homeless people in the UK. That was an increase of 38,000 or 14% in just a single year. The problem only seems to be worsening year on year. So how does this get fixed? Well, the homeless issue is extremely complicated. Many countries have tried numerous methods, most of them failing completely. What is simpler is the housing crisis. The fix to this is simply building many homes. For decades, building has been way below targets set by the government. A big reason for this is the arduous, lengthy, bureaucratic process of planning and gaining permission for building infrastructure in the UK. There are so many restrictions blocking construction. For example, local councils, protest groups, and disgruntled pensioners have had the power to stop a project for literally any reason. It could be encroaching on a piece of valued scenery affecting the landscape. Whatever it is, there is always something leading to delays or abandonment. Labour have discovered this problem and have acted. Their very first policy was to transfer the power away from local councils, allowing the government to force through housing projects at will. The same applies to energy and transport infrastructure. Just recently, a 2,500-acre solar farm was given the green light. It will provide power to 172,000 homes and provide 1,500 jobs. The locals were not happy, to say the least. The government now plans, with these relaxed rules in place, to build 300,000 homes a year. For context, the average has been 210,000 over the past 5 years. There are some roadblocks. For example, there's concerns of a 150,000 skilled worker shortfall. Without enough construction workers, the planning reforms could count for naught. So overall, can Labour save the UK? The harsh reality is that the odds are stacked against them. The fiscal deficit is a gaping wound, bleeding the country dry. With national debt at post-war highs and interest rates biting, Starmer's government is caught between a rock and a hard place. They can't borrow without risking ending up like Greece, and they can't cut spending without further crippling already crumbling public services. Labour's promises to fix these issues ring hollow when faced with the reality of empty coffers. Their decisive action on housing so far has provided some glimmers of hope, as has their refreshing stance on foreign relations. But let's not kid ourselves. These are drops in an ocean of problems. The scale of the challenge facing Labour is monumental. The only thing that could save the country long term is a miracle in both economic growth and productivity, and this miracle could very well arrive. The hype around artificial intelligence, especially if it improves to human-level capabilities towards the end of the decade, cannot be ignored. It's a slim hope, but it might be the only one we've got. Because without some kind of technological and intelligence explosion, it's hard to see how even the most competent government could turn this sinking ship around.